A big revelation coming out of Giants spring training camp. Bo Davidson could be up this season. The big leagues? Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Giants. My name is Alan Stiles. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, thanks to you, the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercast games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are discussing Bo Davidson and Alex Pavlovich mentioning that he could be up with the big leaguers this season. It's a huge spring training for Bo Davidson. Rafael Devers, how he could be the X factor this season for the Giants. And last but not least, ESPN gives out off-season grades to every team. What grade did the Giants get? And what grade would you give the San Francisco Giants? Okay, so obviously, we have made this transition from rumors and free agents and trades and a little bit of drama at the media availability to actual games being played, right? And as we get started this weekend with the Cactus League, they've already heated up with live BP, with players taking batting practice and pitchers throwing that said batting practice and getting us all ready for opening day. With that being said, there are some storylines that we expected. Bryce Eldridge and some of the outfield stuff and finding his position, Luis Arias and how he looks at second base. Some of these things, Jung-Hoo Lee in right field, some of these things have been not that surprising, but one thing has been surprising. So when Bo Davidson was named, a non-roster invitee to camp, I think a lot of us were excited to see his name, but we weren't really sure what to make of it. Well, Alex Pavlovich went on to say this yesterday as Bo Davidson hit a rocket, by the way. Here's a look at Bo Davidson, Giants #3 prospect per Baseball America. This is from Justice De Los Santos. 101 miles per hour exit velo off of Spencer Bivens. He'll start the season with Double-A Richmond. He also hit a ball. That ball that he hit did kind of eat up Luis Arias, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're keeping it positive, okay? And Alex Pavlovich, in a second, I think it's the same clip, right? He says this: center fielder Bo Davidson is going to get a lot of playing time this spring. The undrafted free agent will start in Double-A, hold on, but could be an option later this season. Now, if you're remembering what we talked about during the offseason when we were doing our prospect watches, according to MLB.com and MILB.com, Bo Davidson, his ETA was 2027. So this would be a year ahead of schedule. Obviously, that's not that crazy. He's in Double-A. He's 23 years old. So if he does get a look, I mean, that would be a nice young piece to get some big league reps. We are nowhere near that quite yet. But the fact that Alex Pavlovich, who is, of course, extremely plugged in to the Giants and everything that they have going on as far as their current plans and future plans, for him to just say that this early in the season, I thought was a great thing to hear. We'll see how Bo does at Double-A. We've already talked about me seeing him in Sacramento with the River Cats as well, but I thought this was a lot of hope, right? This was a very hope-filled statement, with hope being a bit of the theme as we move into spring training, the throes of spring training, and obviously getting into the regular season. That is not something I expected to hear. We know that Bo Davidson been compared to the JUCO Barry Bonds and all of the great stories that we've heard about him and how he's been able to really show what he could do. So just exciting stuff. A guy that was signed for $50,000 to turn him into that has been an incredible find by a Giants part-time scout, Paul Falk. Now, Obviously, we haven't seen the full package yet, and we don't know if it's fully going to turn into what we hope it is. But the fact that he's flown up the ranks this quickly as an undrafted guy, that just typically doesn't happen. So good on Bo. We got our eye on him. If he keeps hitting balls at 110 exit velo and things like that, or 101, whatever it was, I think we're going to be talking about him a lot in a positive way. Now, the flip side of this, as I'm thinking about what Alex Pavlovich said, man, not to pile on like we have in a way in the past, but the current crop of bench outfielders, it feels like the Giants have decided that their future is not within any of those guys. And the one guy I want to focus on for a second is Grant McCray. I just had up his stats, and in my mind, I'm just going to be honest, in my mind, I did think that he hit a little bit better in 2024 when Jung-Hoo Lee was injured. I went back and looked at the stats. He wasn't great. It wasn't great. He did have, I think, 5 home runs, and it was a bit surprising because he's a wiry guy, and people came out and said, hey, maybe this is something that could blossom, right? He didn't really get that opportunity. So as I went back and looked at what he did in 2024, he hit 202, okay, 238 OBP, 379 slugging, 617 OPS. He had the 5 home runs. He had 3 doubles. He only stole 5 bags. He played in 37 games. So I did, off the top of my head, I thought that he played in more, right? I did think he played in more. He had a couple opportunities, of course, throughout his time with the Giants. He was 23 years old. Funny enough, that's Bo Davidson's age right now. He was 23 years old, 124 ABs, 130 plate appearances, 25 hits. And like I said, 3 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs. He only stole 5 bags. He had 202. In 2025, he only had 22 ABs. He didn't even hit 100. But honestly, I don't even know what to do with that. Clearly, that is not who he truly is, right? So I thought about him because when they made the trade for Drew Gilbert, or when Drew Gilbert was included in that trade, my number one thought was, as far as Grant McCray is concerned, these guys are way too redundant. They're way too redundant. And now, and I don't think it's a matter of favoritism or whatever it is, now that you have added Harrison Bader, you've moved Jung-Hoo Lee to right field, there's not going to be a ton of opportunities. Yes, in left field, you might sub somebody in for Elliot Ramos, but there's not going to be a ton of opportunity for him. Gerard Encarnacion is different because of his power, right? You're always going to be looking for somebody that can hit the ball a country mile, and Encarnacion can do that. It's tough for him to stay healthy, or it's been tough for him to stay healthy, but he brings something different to the table. McCray and Drew Gilbert, and to a lesser degree, Luis Matos, because he's not on their level defensively. He's supposed to be more of an offensive guy, and he's struggled offensively, but he has shown more flashes. So he's in a kind of weird box on his own. But when I hear this, and obviously they go on and they add Brennan to the outfield as well throughout the offseason, they added Justin Dean. They moved on from him. They added Joey Weimer. They moved on from him. So clearly they have told us time and time again, they are not that high on the bench. And if we see Bo Davidson in 2026, that would clearly mean that the Giants have moved forward from not just Grant McCray, but from Drew Gilbert as well. That's how I would take this. I know Harrison Bader's only signed for a couple years, but that's how I would take this, because in those couple years, now you're getting ready for Dakota Jordan. Now you're getting ready for other guys that are, on the heels trying to get to the big leagues. So it's just a weird situation, I would say, for McCray. And I'm sure it's not that unique of a story when you look throughout baseball. This type of stuff happens all the time. So it's a positive segment, don't get me wrong, because I am excited to see Bo Davidson, but it is just a bit of a weird situation with how things went down with Grant McCray specifically, because he was given an opportunity. It was his first opportunity, and it kind of went in a blink of an eye. He had his chance when Jung-Hoo Lee was down, but it's not even a Tyler Fitzgerald situation, because once Jung-Hoo Lee came back, it was really tough for Grant to get back in the mix and have some opportunities. They went with Luis Matos, and Luis Matos going back and forth with Yastrzemski. They still had Yastrzemski at the time. And now, as you look at some of the other guys that are working out, Bryce Eldridge, obviously that's left field, that's a little bit different. Tyler Fitzgerald, I mentioned that Tyler Fitzgerald was taking reps in center field, and he struggled with the bat. So the Giants, the current crop that they have of guys that are kind of 3A, 4A players, if you will, they're essentially telling us, yeah, they had their opportunity and they couldn't get it done. And for Drew Gilbert, I mean, he's a guy who came out in a trade, essentially was platooning with Luis Matos. And even though it was maybe, hey, you get a couple series, I get a couple series, I don't even know that he fully got an opportunity to show what he could do. So, it goes deeper than that. It's what you do at the AAA level. This is what all the scouts and the coaching staff and front office, what they're all looking at. And it seems like they've made a decision. None of those guys, I would put Encarnacion in another bucket, but Grant McCray, Drew Gilbert, and Luis Matos, unless there's some type of injury and somebody gets an opportunity and just balls out, it feels like the door is pretty much shut for them as far as a full-on future, long-term future with the Giants. That's not to say they could go somewhere else and ball out. I could see Grant McCray, going on a bad team. I'm not going to name a name, but just getting an opportunity to play every day and putting some things together. I've always said, I'm old school. You need to be laying down some more bunts. You need to be utilizing your speed more. I think Grant McCray is going to look at how the launch angle stuff is evolving back, or I should say regressing back to the mean, and hit the ball on the ground, find ways to just be a menace on the base paths and go from there. So I see that for him. Obviously, Drew Gilbert can run, but he can't run like Grant McCray. Drew Gilbert is just in a funny situation because he truly is a bit of a tweener. He's not a burner, if you will, not like Grant McCray, but he can do some things. So he's another guy that's going to have to maybe figure out, hey, do I do some more small ball stuff, or do I just keep swinging for the fences because that's what is the hot thing to do? So yeah, both of those guys, we wish them the best. Obviously, they're still on the Giants, but when you see something like this, not only does it speak to Bo Davidson and the type of ceiling that the Giants believe he has and the type of prospect that the Giants believe him to be, but it also says that they essentially feel like they've given some of the current crop of backup outfielders, feels like they've seen enough, right? Or they're very, very close to believing that they've seen enough. On the other side, we have not seen enough of Rafael Devers. Could he be the X factor heading into this season? More Locked On Giants coming up. Ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Giants with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSFGiants.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're a true diehard Giants fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to LockedOnSFGiants.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access. You can also find a link in the show notes. Could Rafael Devers be the X factor for the Giants? Now, there's been a lot of talk back and forth about should the Giants get a pass this offseason because they made their big acquisition during the regular season. I've pushed back on that because when the Giants made that move, that was for that season. Right? It's not as if they did it. And obviously you have him for 7 more years, whatever it is, but it's not as if they did it and they weren't competing. right? It would be different if a team made a trade. We're seeing that in the NBA right now. Teams are making trades. Like the Jazz made a trade. They got much better on paper, but they don't plan on competing. The Wizards did the same thing. So we've seen situations like that. That's not what that was for the Giants. That was to compete that season and beyond, don't get me wrong, but I don't really like the rollover minutes. This isn't AT&T Wireless. This isn't Verizon. I don't really like the rollover deals like that. I like to separate things out and look at that on its face, because at that time, that was a push to see if the Giants could make some noise and get back to the postseason, and it didn't work. And it's okay, because you still have Rafael Devers, but it didn't work. By the way, everybody is talking about Rafael Devers now because he hit a ding-dong Donkey Kong against our guy Logan Webb yesterday that maybe hasn't landed yet. So people are starting to get hyped up and look at this lineup and think to themselves, there were some notes where Rafi and the crew, it looked real bleak. But you add Luis Arias, who's going to be on base. You add Young-Hoo Lee, more focused on the offensive approach because he's in right field. He can chill a little bit more. You add even a Patrick Bailey that we talked about with ABS, and he's making some adjustments. Maybe he can focus up more offensively. You add these guys in, and Bryce Eldridge, obviously we know what he could do. We don't know what he will do, but we know what he could do. This team could be cooking a little bit. Right? This team could be cooking a little bit. They're not the Dodgers. They're not the Mets. They're not the Phillies on paper. We get all that. But if you're talking about just getting into the dance and seeing what happens and having a hot rotation and having a bullpen that is moving in the right direction, you never know what could happen. But Rafi Devers is clearly the most important player in these conversations. And Shayna Rubin, she broke this down a little bit, why the Giants' real X factor for 2026 is Rafael Devers. He said that he doesn't see himself as a leader, but he has spoken a couple times to the team. He says, I think we have a really good lineup. We can compete with anyone, Devers said. And he also went on to say that our lineup is scary. So he wanted to kind of give a breakdown of who he believes that he is, right? And Shayna writes, perhaps that potential doesn't feel real after what happened in 2025 when the offense fell completely flat and the Giants' postseason hopes spiraled shortly after Devers joined the team. But a full year of Devers could flip that script. He's averaged 33 homers per season over a 9-year career, including the 35 hit last year between San Francisco and Boston. He said his biggest goal for his first year as a Giant is to keep that up. Here's his quote. I think it's to try to hit 30 home runs, but the main thing is to make sure that I give my 100%. And now that I'm playing first base, to make sure that I play really good first base for a full season. He goes on to say it's experience. I see a lot of videos of very good hitters and see that it's the new way of playing baseball, just to make sure to take as many pitches as you want and hit the ones you can drive. Because he did have a career high 15.4% walk rate last season. So he also wanted to address the conversations about the teammate stuff in Boston. Devers left Boston with questions surrounding his virtues as a teammate. He refused to play first base for the Red Sox after they moved him off third base, where he'd been since his debut, to the designated hitter role. He has embraced playing first base full-time with the Giants and has looked sharp there during workouts. I think if you can play third base in the big leagues first, you should be able to transition to first base. That's what Buster Posey said. Obviously, the angles are going to be a little bit different, the spin off the bat, things like that. So I think there's an adjustment period, but it's been pretty fun to watch him early on in camp. And this is what he said, Devers, to get back to what he said about, the not exactly the stuff in Boston, but just who he is. I don't see myself as a leader. I just like to do the little things. I know that I can help somebody in hitting, sharing my experience, my knowledge that I have for so many years in the big leagues. That's what I want. So great stuff from Rafi Devers. And I mean, I do think I'll put myself in this category. I do think sometimes we don't think enough about or talk enough about how good Rafael Devers is and how good Rafael Devers has been. I mean, this far in his career, like Shayna said, the 9 years, 3-time All-Star. He won the World Series in 2018, a 2-time Silver Slugger. That's just stuff that you cannot poo-poo. He had 35 dingers last season. And even if you're going to say the Oracle Park thing, I still think that's around 27 to 30 playing at Oracle Park, because you're not at Oracle Park every single game. So I still think he's going to be above 25, which is something that the Giants just haven't really had. Now, hopefully he can continue that 30 home run stretch, but he doesn't, you still can see the power that he has, and he'll just turn into an amazing doubles guy if that's not the case either. So as far as the 30 home runs, he had 35 in 2025. He had 28 in 2024. He had 33 in 2023, 27 in 2022. 38 in 2021. Obviously, 2020 was a shortened season. He had 11. 2019, he had 32. And 2018, he had 21. And then his rookie season, he had 10. All right. And that was in 58 games. Okay. So, I'm not fully agreeing with the idea that the Giants already did their work and we shouldn't worry about this offseason. And we'll get into the grade that I give them, and you can comment your grade as well. We're not necessarily going to get into that and give them a pass there. We're just going to acknowledge how good Rafael Devers is and how much better he can make this team after a full season. Willie Adames, right? Getting more acclimated with the Giants after a year. You have Matt Chapman, who, again, he's going to have that protection. Luis Arias, who's going to give everybody a little bit of hope on the base paths because he'll be on the bases a lot. Again, Jung-Hoo Lee, this will be his first season, or I guess his second full season after that injury. So still getting used to in his first season. So still getting acclimated with the Giants and the United States and all of that. So there are a lot of reasons to be positive. And, Vegas is going to be Vegas as far as the total wins. And we'll talk about that right before the season kicks off. But, one thing you can't measure and one thing that Vegas doesn't measure are things like that. Right? How comfortable you are, how acclimated you are. The fact that Jung-Hoo Lee is in right field, not center, right? The mental aspect of it, ABS, how that could affect Patrick Bailey. So there are a lot of things to be positive about. There's also a lot of ifs. And I've always said, I'm not really too worried about the lineup. It's the pitching for me. I have a feeling that they're going to be able to put runs up. The question is, are they going to give up too many? That's the question. So I've always thought that the Giants lineup is right there. That's why I never really needed Kyle Tucker. I never really needed Cody Bellinger. I would have taken him, but I was okay with the Harrison Bader. And realistically, I just didn't think that they were going to do much more. I didn't even see him getting Luis Arias. But it's the pitching and to a lesser degree the defense, because those things kind of go hand in hand. That's where I've had question marks. All right, let's hear what the Four Letter Network had to say about the Giants and what grade they gave them. ESPN breaks down offseason grades for all of the MLB teams. What grade did they give them? What grade do you give them? What grade do I give them? More Locked On Giants coming up. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person who cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Okay, one more segment to wrap it up, and we have the final 2026 offseason grades for all 30 MLB teams. This is from David Schoenfield of ESPN. Obviously, we don't really care about the other teams, so I'm going to skip on down to the Giants. And if you guess that the Giants received a B, you would be correct. Their key additions: Luis Arias, Tyler Mahle, Adrian Hauser, Harrison Bader, and Sam Hentges. Key departures: Justin Verlander and Wilmer Flores. Individually, this is the write-up. Individually, all of these moves make sense in addressing holes from 2025. The Giants needed more offense at second base, and Arias should provide league average production, although with the hit on defense. Bader upgrades the defense in center field, although he is unlikely to repeat his offensive numbers. Malley and Hauser provide rotation depth, although Malley hasn't made more than 23 starts since 2021. And Hauser's 2025 numbers might be a fluke. In the big picture, it feels like a bunch of, 81 and 81 moves from an 81 and 81 team. That leaves the most fascinating move for the Giants made all offseason, hiring Tony Vitello, who has no professional playing or coaching experience as the manager. So I'm just perusing the other teams now. So he did give out minuses and pluses. It's not just A's, B's, C's, D's, in F's, right? There's some B pluses, there are B minuses. Like, for example, he gave the Phillies a B minus. The way that's written, it sounds like he wants to give the Giants a B minus, maybe even a C plus. And I would give the Giants a B minus, barely a B minus. I'd call it an 80. Okay, just scratching by there with a B minus. So, your parents aren't that upset with you because it's not a C. And it's exactly because of what he said. They filled the needs that they had, but they did not fill them in a very exciting way, right? They got, I guess, the coaching staff and the new manager. That was exciting, but everything as far as the additions they made, they just, I guess, filled spots, right? They needed a second baseman. They go get Luis Arias, that's not just filling a spot in the lineup. That's really good for the lineup. But as a second baseman, that's kind of just filling a spot. I know those two things go hand in hand, so you can't really separate them, but you understand what I'm trying to say. The pitchers, they got pitchers, but again, they got starting pitchers. They did not go out and get somebody that maybe excites you or could really turn this thing around. And before I get going here, I've been seeing some comments, and I wanted to address this a little bit just because I understand where we're at in the cycle. So we're talking about a lot of hope. And yesterday, somebody commented saying, well, Alan, you're talking as if Logan Webb hasn't thrown in the postseason at all. And that's not the case. You don't seem very positive when it comes to the Giants. And I had somebody hit me up on X, on Twitter, saying the same thing. Look, I'm going to be me. And what's funny is when I started doing this during the season and the Giants were struggling a little bit, everybody was talking about how real I was and how I'm not kind of putting lipstick on anything. So I don't think it's necessarily about what we're discussing or how I am talking about the Giants. I think it's just where we're at in the cycle. And right now, there are a lot of fans, maybe you listening or you watching, you want to hear about the positivity because the fact of the matter is they have not won a game. They have not lost a game. They have the same record as the Dodgers, the same record as the Blue Jays, the same record as all these teams that truly contended and a team that won a championship. And I'm with you. When I saw Bo Davidson hit that rocket, I jumped out of my seat, the crack off the bat. That doesn't change how I feel about the offseason. So I can't necessarily flip a switch. And the number one thing that I say all the time on this show is I will never police fandom and I will never tell a fan how to fan. And when I'm doing these shows, I got to be real. And I think the Giants could have done more this offseason from the pitching perspective. Now, we're moving forward. And me saying that I want Logan Webb to compete at the highest level, that's not me being negative. That's me wanting Logan Webb, somebody who has done so much for the Giants, to have an opportunity to show what he can do. And that also means that the Giants will be in the playoffs, somewhere they haven't been very often. So I do not mean to come off as negative. I'm literally just telling everyone who I think the Giants are right now. And it's not just me. I'm not going to sit here and say, and I've said it before, if Adrian Hauser ends up being a Cy Young finalist, that would be outstanding. They look like geniuses. That's not what a lot of people think is going to happen, but that would be outstanding. This team has an opportunity to be the third wild card. That's what it is. Anything else would be incredibly surprising to me, but 2021 was surprising. So I don't know. Maybe there is a little bit of a defense mechanism. If I come in here and say, oh, Adrian Hauser is going to repeat what he did. Tyler Mahle is going to repeat what he did. Luis Arias is going to be a gold glover second baseman. He's also going to hit 300 again. and Devers is going to hit 35 home runs again, even though it's all at Oracle Park. Oh, and by the way, Bryce Eldridge is also going to win Rookie of the Year. That's just not necessarily realistic. So I do not ever mean to come off as negative, but when the Giants were losing games, obviously things are going to be more negative. When the Giants were winning games during that winning streak, you can go back and look at the shows. I was happy as a clam. So this stuff is always going to go through waves. And right now, for me, I'm looking at Logan Webb and I'm just seeing the future. And the future and the conversation of him being 29 and having 2 starts in the playoffs, meanwhile, throughout that time, being a top 10 pitcher in baseball throughout that tenure, that's not great. I wish it was a better situation for Logan. That's not me bagging on the Giants. That's me wanting better for the Giants as well as Logan Webb. So as we move into the season, some of you maybe didn't listen to me or weren't watching yet during the season. The season changes everything, right? I'm reacting to games. I'm reacting to decisions. I'm reacting to all of that. We are so close. We are so close. So the storylines that we're seeing, we're going to continue to grab onto. The reporting that we're seeing, we're going to continue to grab onto. It's not about being negative or positive. It's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. So I really appreciate all of you for kind of letting me be me and just disagreeing with me, right? If you think I am looking at something the wrong way or should be looking at something a different way, when those of you do comment, I get back to you and we have a conversation and it's great. And a lot of times I shout you out on the show. But right now, what we're looking at is a team that throughout the baseball world, and even Buster Posey, I mean, Buster is not even running around saying, oh, we made these outstanding acquisitions. Buster is saying we have a balanced team now, right? And we're hoping that the young guys take a leap. So I don't think that my thought process is any different than the Giants' thought process. They didn't want to spend a lot of money, so they took some chances on some guys that weren't as expensive, and we hope it works out for them. That's the bottom line. I need to get to the playoffs. I'm begging. It's been forever. I forgot what it feels like. I need to get back to the postseason. Thanks for watching Locked On Giants. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @Styles Files, Styles with, and I will be back tomorrow. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Giants ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to Locked On sfgiants at supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. Thank you again for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.